Welcome back to another episode of Fret Buzz the podcast. Hi, I'm Aaron Sefchick, and every week together with my co-host Joe McMurray, we focus on how we musicians and professionals approach our craft, giving insight to help us all become better and more informed musicians. This week we're going to pick up on part 2 and continue the awesome conversation that we had with Quist. But before we do that, if you haven't already, I do want to direct your attention towards the Guinness Book of World Records. A couple of months ago, Rob Scallon got a bunch of pedal makers together at Sweetwater and built the world's largest pedal board. It is quite impressive. The reason that I bring this up is because, well, there's a few people there that you may see on Fret Buzz the podcast in the future. As always, if you're new to the show, head on over to iTunes and give us a review if you like the show. Stop on by at fretbuzzthepodcast.com. And if you'd like to support the show, head on over to Patreon and peruse the tiers. And a quick little reminder, if you are listening on podcast, don't forget there is a Fret Buzz the Podcast YouTube channel where you can see the guests and any of the visuals that go along with the episode. And with that, I don't want to hold up anything any longer. I want to thank you for listening. And let's jump into part 2 with Quist on Fret Buzz, the podcast.
You also obviously are known for your online presence. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, I mean, it was born out of kind of passion, and there was, maybe it was a little bit of a coincidence as well, but like I said, I've been making I made the jam tracks when I was a child, and so in London, before I started touring like full time, I was teaching at what could be called London's version of Musicians Institute, like the place that churns out the most like high profile session players, basically. So I was teaching there, and at one point I was teaching students about improvisation and concepts of that nature, and I was like, well, let me make you a jam track for what we're talking about, and like, so I started to do that with some of the students, and I did that via YouTube. I was like, well, I'll just put it on YouTube and you guys can go there. So like if you look at some of my very first videos, it'll be comments from like students at that school, or university rather. So it was just like doing stuff with whatever was in front of me. And then some of those jams, like some of the, modal jams that I put up, they I wouldn't say blew up, but like they found an audience pretty quickly. Oh, yeah. And so I was like, oh, okay, that there's something here, because I didn't see anybody else doing it pretty much, and certainly nobody was doing it the way that I was doing it. I did my thing with a solo at the start, and then leave the space for somebody else to solo. And so yeah, it was just like, wow, okay, something's right here. And it was crude as hell. It was, I mean, they didn't sound great. I didn't know much about anything to do with making music. I mean, I knew how to make music and play things, but I didn't know how to record anything very well at all. Like, it was pretty crude, so it did not sound amazing. It was more because I think that there was not a lot of stuff that was out there at all. So it was like filling a void, really, more than anything.
Yeah, the content.
Yeah, well, it was content that wasn't there, So people were like, "Oh, I can practice my D Dorian if I, if they were searching up D Dorian, they're like, oh, I can jam on this. Let me try that." And then, so I think that in all honesty was how it kicked off, at the beginning. And then I stopped teaching and started touring full time with like various artists and on my own in based from London, but like everywhere in the world basically. And then I just started to record like the jam tracks on the road. So that's why you see them from. And then at one point I started writing where I was, to just kind of for the heck of it, to also to remember all the goddamn hotel rooms along the way, So I started to note where I was, and also because, and just to kind of stick out as well, because nobody else that I know of does that. Makes jam tracks and records intros from all over the world. And so I thought, well, let me just, I've got something going on, and it just built up through many years. I toured for a long time with various artists, and especially, the last 5 years of touring and realizing that I could make this a thing that pays for the bills and pays for where I live and things like that. I realized that a little while ago, and so I've just been that guy, on the tour bus, just working all the time. So I just put in the work, and put out like, 700 tracks or something over the last, long time. So it's so it's just continuous work, and trying to see what people are enjoying, and rolling with that, and rolling with what I love and what people seem to enjoy. So I got not roped into, but I steered towards doing a lot of blues, because I have loads of blues tracks with more than 1 million views each, and like those really get hit up by a lot of people. So I'm like, well, I'll make some more of those. I love playing the blues.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play the blues, and some of my jazz tracks got very big as well. So I'm like, well, I'm kind of a jazzer at heart as well, so I'll play some jazz tracks. So for somebody who comes into my world, they may be a bit confused, because I can be a bit Swiss knifey about what I do. But yeah. So the success of the YouTube channel is literally just, I guess, because I just built up a thing with a lot of people over a long time, and just listening to people and trying to say, yeah, I love this thing, you love this thing, let me give you some more of that, and then just leaning into what's working constantly.
Yeah. Do you do a live YouTube at all?
I did a series last year where I was live on YouTube, but I did actually 2 different things, but I didn't really I couldn't make my equipment work with it properly.
Okay.
I did a live jam, which was like 3 hours long. I set myself a thing where I played on it. I made a loop and played on it for 3 hours, and to see what my soloing would be like after 3 hours. And after I did that video, everything I did on YouTube was out of sync.
Oh.
So I don't know if like I messed up something in YouTube, or whether my equipment, whatever happened, I just could not fix this sync issue. So eventually I was like, whatever. But
moving on.
But as we speak, I've actually just gotten the newest. I had a really old iPhone after for the last long time. I'm not like super interested in techie things to do with phones and stuff, but I just got the very newest like XS iPhone. So I'm actually going to start doing some more live stuff on YouTube, because the sound and picture and everything, the reliability of that scenario is pretty good. So I'm probably gonna start doing some more live stuff.
Okay. I didn't know if you had done any like live Q&A with Quist. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, well, that's what I was doing. The kind of series I was doing was like I would jam and then just like Q&A, sit and chat to people and that. But people get annoyed when it's A, super bad picture quality, and B, like out of sync. That's kind of tedious to watch. So but I think that I will have eliminated those problems now, so I'll probably do some of those. Yeah. Do you guys do those kinds of things?
No, I would love to. I think that would be once we build our fan base a little bit more.
Yeah,
I would love to kind of go down that route and be able to do that.
yeah,
It seems to be working for a lot of people that I follow, and obviously I follow it, so it
yeah,
is interesting. Even though I may not pitch in, I do definitely like to see what audiences have to ask, and some of the responses. I just like that interaction. So
yeah.
yeah, I
It's
think
super
that
valuable for you as well,
yeah.
like because it's like you're getting fed all the information about what's great and what's not, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's makes so much sense for on a lot of levels to be doing Q&As and that kind of interaction. I love that about the internet,
Yeah.
the way that it's enables people to communicate now. I make full use of that. I think it's amazing, and it's exciting.
So with your YouTube live experience, even though it seemed you're saying it's been limited, did you advertise for a period leading up to the live session that you're going to go live on whatever date at this time, and then what was the showing like? Like, did people show up? Did people stick around for large periods of time?
I will be perfectly honest with you. Because I literally tried to fix the technical aspects of my live stuff throughout doing those things, like like I was trying to make it good enough quality for me to like properly push it, because I didn't want to properly push it before I was like, yeah, this is now great, and nobody's saying, hey, it's out of sync, or
Right.
or are you in like Timbuktu because the quality is like 4 pixels. I didn't like massively push it at any point, but yes, I mean, I would like leave it up on like maybe Facebook or whatever. At the time I've kind of, I don't use Facebook a lot anymore, but like I maybe tweet it or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, that's the way to do it. But I think what I did, which was probably helped it create some people, was that or create an audience, which was that I did it regularly. I did it every Sunday. I took that from my good friend Marty Schwartz.
Yeah.
He's through his I mean, he's been doing his Saturday 1:00 live stream, which was on Facebook only before, but now it's also on his YouTube channel. But like, when he stopped doing his first big YouTube channel, Guitar Jams, and started his own current YouTube channel, the whole interim, he really pushed his Saturday live jams and everything like that. And I've done like, I think 5 of them or something. I've been on his show many times, and like, it's awesome, and he puts it up on like Instagram and whatever, that he's got such and such guest, or he's talking about such and such. But he, you don't have to do that much advertising after a while, because if you do it every day for like every week on a certain time on a certain day for literally years, you will have built up a nice audience of people that are like, it's it's Marty Schwartz live time,
Yeah. Yep.
that helps, and as a creator myself, I've started making use of that principle I'm forever trying to find like a good balance between committing to a certain release schedule and being free to create, because like the majority of my time is spent, and the majority of my income comes from things that I create at the moment. So I'm always trying to leave enough space to roll with things that are created, especially when you create with other people. But like, I realized that having a set thing is very helpful for creating an audience. So in April, I started a new series called Wednesday Warm-Ups, which is like
I like
warm-up
this.
exercises, because I love like warm-ups, and like when I go out and play a gig, I always warm up really well. Like it's just one of those things, I'm like, it's probably the ballet thing coming up again. I like to I'm kind of an athlete at heart. I like to warm up and do things properly and stuff like that. So to make some more creative and kind of musical warm-ups, I started this series where I do a warm-up every Wednesday, and but like that's one day a week, and it's just, you know, it's time consuming, but it's I've still got enough space to, like, you know, roll with larger creative projects that are time consuming and that sort of thing. So yeah, what I'm saying is there's definitely there's a value in having something like repeating like that, and something that people will show up for again and again, and you build up a thing, you know, with people because they keep coming back, and it's definitely a good thing. But like at one point I went way over, and I said, okay, I'm going to be releasing tracks every week, every day. So I released tracks for every day, and I was touring, like full-time touring at the same time in I think it started about May 2016. I had like a 4 or 5 month period or something when I was touring the world, all over the world, and creating tracks every single day on YouTube. And it was insane. I couldn't, like, you know, I was a shell after that. And I couldn't create anything of like larger projects, like, you know, I was trying to finish a record, and I was trying to, you know, do other stuff that I would be, you know, very happy to see, probably more happy than 1 gazillion jam tracks. So it's just always getting the balance right. I'm sure that you guys cannot, you know what I'm talking about. It's always like a balancing act. Yeah. Balancing what, you know, what's really working, and balancing what's making you happy, balancing, you know, getting towards the things, finishing the things that mean something to you. And like it's always a balancing act as a musician, I feel. And like saying no to things that maybe don't take you down the road that you actually want to be going, and things like that. It's hard, but it's also great, you know. I'm super grateful.
I feel like my life is constantly putting out whatever fire is like right in front of me.
Right.
Like after this, I'm gonna be cramming for I've got a 3-hour jazz gig this evening. If the rain doesn't hit us too hard. So like, you know, I know the songs, but I haven't played these exact songs for a little while, and you know, I'm gonna take the dog on a walk, and then I'm gonna be playing those songs until I load up the car to go to the gig.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, well then I've got gigs all next weekend that I'm like different stuff. Yeah. So it's just constantly like, what do I have to prepare for tonight? You know, I don't do nearly as much. In all honesty, I don't do nearly as much with the episodes as Aaron does. Aaron does lots of work editing these episodes. And I struggle just getting the episode descriptions written and things like that. Like you know, corresponding with you know, people like you about guesting on the show. Aaron, you do, like, at one point at the beginning when you weren't as streamlined, you were saying it took you like 8 to 10 hours an episode to edit down and prep and get it out there.
Yeah. It's really time consuming, that stuff.
Well, there's whenever you take on and this goes across the board, you know, whenever you take on a new project that is something new to you, there is definitely a learning curve. And as long as you're willing to work with that learning curve, you know, and whittle it down to, you know, streamline it. And that doesn't matter if it's podcasting or learning a new instrument or learning, you know, audio production or whatever it is that you're passionate about. You do have a tall wall in front of you, but you just chisel it down bit by bit, and it just becomes easier and easier after a while.
That is the joy. Yeah, you're so right. Like that, the more you do something, the better you get at doing it efficiently. That's so true. Like you just develop this methodology. Yeah.
Methodology.
Methodology. That's the word. Thank you. Like, you know, and then things gradually becomes more and more streamlined. Yeah. And that's the joy of doing it over and over again. Yeah.
Well, an experience that I would really like to hear about that we haven't gotten to yet really is the session work that you've been doing in LA.
Oh yeah.
Do you consistently do studio sessions where you're paid to come in and play on somebody's album, and you sign away your rights to the music, you're paid?
I've done a fair few of those. Yeah. That's certainly one thing that I do. And occasionally I'll say yes to a tour as well. The touring and the studio work are definitely things that I do here now, but I'm a little bit selective about that stuff, actually, to be perfectly honest. Like, sometimes if the music or the price isn't right, I'll happily say no at the moment, because of what I do myself is working. I feel like when I have to justify when I'm not working on my own music. It has to be justified by either it being great music with great people, or that the pay bracket is right. And that sounds really cold, maybe, or calculating, or whatever.
No. I'm shaking my head the entire time.
Right. Okay. You got to be selective as a musician, like, and you got to steer your path like a fascist. I try to, anyway. I really try and be rigid about what I say yes to and what I say no to, and this sounds really bad, but which context I get seen in and stuff like that, and because I really try to do, at this point, I'm not 20 years old anymore, and I'd like to be doing, just the stuff that I love to do all the time. That's been my, probably for the last 10 years, I've sort of worked purposefully towards being able to be in a situation where I literally spend all of my time doing what I love to do. And maybe that sounds like a stretch, or maybe that sounds like an easy thing for some people, or I don't know, but like, that's a challenge. And it's not just like a challenge to get to that, because I feel that I've kind of, I've gotten a large part of the way to getting to that, actually. Like, I've worked really hard to be able to, I don't have to say yes to anybody's offers of doing anything at the moment, because I'm making enough from doing my music, which is something I've worked at for so many years. And I'm extremely thankful that I've gotten to the point where I can say that, where that is the actual fact.
It makes sense. I mean, you for anybody who's worked a really long time and paid their dues and really gone after their dream and never given up, after a period of time, yeah, I think you're granted that idea that, what, I don't have to say yes to everything, because I know my value. I know my my value. My time is very valuable, and I enjoy what I'm doing regardless. And if someone would require my services, it's got to be the right fit. I'm at that point in my life where that just makes sense.
Yeah, I try to remember that. Sometimes you forget and just roll with something because you're like, oh, I could do with like some extra money, or I could, this and that. But I try and elevate myself to the thought process that you just described very precisely right there.
Yeah. And sometimes those one-offs you may find something really, really interesting. You may want to take a project here and there that's just
absolutely.
That piques your project. Yeah.
I just said yes to something that I wouldn't maybe normally do, but like to this band. They're great people. They're really lovely people, and they have some gigs in South Korea that I'm going to go and do in a few weeks. And
cool.
And I'm like, like when stuff like that comes about, I'm like, nice people, not that related to what I'm doing. However, nice people, great music. I love the music, and like I get to go to South Korea and get paid well. There's that. It's like, it's when things come together like that, you're like, oh, okay, there's no way I'm not going to jump on that.
Yeah.
But so I feel very thankful for being in a place where opportunities like that can come around, and yeah, but I don't like seek them out as much as I maybe could, or that as I don't seek them out as much as many other people do in town. A lot of people, this is the town of networking and smooching and going out every night and meeting people and shaking hands and then getting gigs with big artists and blah blah blah, and strutting your stuff constantly in various scenarios. This is the town for that, and I try to force myself to do it a little bit sometimes, because things come and opportunities arise when you are in the game. So I definitely force myself as a player to go out and do it a little bit, but like I don't do it as much out of need as much, more sort of out of knowing that life opens up when things happen and people come your way, and you make yourself available to the world, and like it's for anybody who wants to do work as a session guitarist, or like to get paid playing in all sorts of scenarios, like apart from step one, which is be great at what you do, and like really have, you got to do the work and like do the shedding for probably years and years before you're ready to present yourself as somebody who people want to employ. But then the second big one is, you got to be out there and like meet people and strut your stuff, and like do jam sessions and all that kind of stuff. And I never really did that much, but like whenever I have, things have opened up and I'm like, oh wow, I wonder what would have happened what would happen if I did this all the time, like if you literally went out and really showed yourself and like shook lots of hands and because I see people doing that. I have a friend who just moved here from Nashville, and he like booked a lunch meeting with me as soon as he moved here, and like we had a chat, and I could sense that he was very networky and like working his way into the scene. And now like he's been here for not even a year. Now he's out. I just saw he posted that he's touring with Dokken.
Oh, wow.
Do you remember Dokken?
Oh yeah.
Right. So they're doing like a string of dates over the next few months, and like he's the bass player in that now.
Very cool.
He's actually from Sweden originally, but he was in Nashville for a long time. I met him when I played at the Ryman Auditorium. He came to that show and then we hit it off. But like, so he's a nice guy, but like pretty new to the LA scene, and he's just like scored a major rock gig, and he's like extremely networky and just like really all the jams, showing his face, shaking the hands, and so that's how people do it, if anybody was wondering.
Well, it comes down to that balance thing that we were talking about before. Anytime, any point in time in your life, that balance shifts, and you may at this point in your life, for the next 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, need to go out and promote yourself and get yourself known within those networks and start to kind of build yourself up. But at the same time, if you also have if you're established as a brand, you definitely need to take that time throughout your day or whatever it is, another period of time where you needed to dedicate that time towards you and your brand and building, whether it's online presence and doing videos, or because that obviously takes a lot of work. And then, doing both at the same time, or even a third thing where you're playing with artists, you're touring with artists, or you're recording artists. There's a very balance that you kind of have to take on, and in terms of, okay, where are my priorities and how do I, what is my main goal over the next 6 months? Do I want to build my brand? Do I want to get networking out there? Do I want to, because no matter what, each one of those is going to take time, and it's going to take time away from one another.
Yeah, totally. So, and everything always takes more time than you think, or than you like to accept. So something always gets pushed down the priority list, and then you half a year later, you're like, oh, that was that thing. I was, that's a continuous thing for me. I always load up my calendar and then choose, it's like it's the Paul Hogan attitude. It's like you fill your mouth and you chew as quickly as you possibly can. I think he said something like that around being Crocodile Dundee. Like basically, you chew as fast as you can to get, whatever, and then whatever gets done. But that's kind of my methodology. But and that can be kind of hard on the old nervous system, that if you're just constantly, like you were saying, you constantly, like today, you have to chase after the gig, you got to learn, you put all that stuff inside your head and then like run out to the gig and play it all. And then you get back and you're like, oh, there's those gigs in the weekend and I got to fill all my head with all this other music and learn it. And continuous thing where you're always like running after the next thing. And I feel that very much. And I think probably a lot of people don't realize that that's the actual life of most musicians that make it, as full-time musicians. It's like, it's not just like this life of, I've got my gig and I'm going to the gig and then we gotta chill and have some beers. It's like,
no,
oh my God.
Yeah, there's some of that, but it's what happens after that's like, okay, I got to keep on rolling.
Yeah,
because that gig is gonna end.
Yeah.
It's exhausting to go out and network at bars. It used to be so much more fun, and now that I'm in bars so much playing, like the last thing I want to do on my night off is go to a bar. Like I just spent the last 3 nights in bars.
Right.
Yeah, and being in a bar, if you're out late at night networking, then you're not waking up early and getting stuff done. Although I'm an early, I'm far more productive in the mornings. So it tears me up to be out late to like, I feel like I lost a whole day of work if I'm out late.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I get up like clockwork every morning. It doesn't matter how late I go to work as well. I go to sleep. So sleep deprivation is like it's an
brutal
issue.
You just got to keep drinking coffee.
Yeah. But it's, I get times where I'm like, okay, I've gone too far into not having enough sleep. And then I'm like, I gotta cut something out at some point in terms of the workload, and then like have a night or two where I try to like not work or whatever. Cause my body tells me like sometimes it's like, okay, too much.
Yeah.
You need like more than 4.5 hours of sleep for like 5 days in a row, like it starts to get a little.
Yeah, no, that was me last week. My eye started twitching on a daily basis. Like,
I've had.
Went to the doctor and he's like, yeah, yep, you need to get some sleep, buddy. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Well, just like you want to listen to, an audience you're building, you got to listen to your body.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Exactly.
I definitely try and do that. And my body talks to me quite often at the moment.
Yeah. But like you were saying, I think there is a time and a place to grind. There's definitely a period in your life where you have to push and you have to go through it. You have to kind of build your identity up within the environment, and you do eventually, fingers crossed, not always, it's not a guarantee, but eventually you get to a point where you can say, okay, I'm comfortable and I can take on clients that I want to work with, and that everything is good. I don't have to grind as much anymore because I've paid my dues.
Maybe I'm so far away from feeling like I've paid my dues.
Oh yeah. I don't know that I'll ever look away.
Yeah. Grinding has become such a part of the fabric of my life. Just like it's just the default thing, and I'm proud of what I'm kind of achieving, somewhat proud, I guess. But like I am so freaking far from some of the big goals that I know that I have that I'm not there yet, so I'm like, and that's also what helps me to focus on the right things and say no to certain things, because I'm like getting more and more, I try to make myself really aware of the goals and like where I want to go, and like use that grind to try and get there, and or get somewhere that sits in at least the region of where I'd like to be,
With the idea of I like to often try to think of my cup being half full. You have achieved some incredible things. I mean, you just like it was very casual the way that you're like, yeah, I played at the Ryman in Nashville, and you just like, we didn't talk about it anymore, but you've played some incredible venues. You've had the opportunity to play with incredible musicians.
Yes.
I mean,
no, I feel very blessed for that.
You've been able to do great things. So what were a couple of your favorite, like the thing, like life-defining gigs or performances?
Well, the Hollywood Bowl was a big one. I've performed at the Royal Albert Hall
Wow.
actually quite a few times. Well, the first time I did it was supporting. It's a really long time ago, but it was me and an Irish girl supporting like this band, and it was completely sold out. But so they weren't there for us. But like, it was the first time I played it. And it was literally just the two of us, me on a guitar and her singing in front of a full Royal Albert Hall. That was one of the first times that as a session musician, somebody had gone, all right, cool, I see you there. You can handle this, right? Just hold down the music part of this little situation. You guys playing for a full Royal Albert Hall. That was one of the moments where I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this, because it went well and whatnot. That was a big moment. And then like recording at Abbey Road, I did a series with a great American singer actually called Christina Train. She got signed with Blue Note. She was out touring with Herbie Hancock on fiddle and singing. So she's a very talented musician. But she did an album with Blue Note, and then she did an album. She got signed with what was Mercury Records at the time in England, and so I got pulled in to do that thing, and it was really cool, that project. She got like playlists and got some, she did pretty well in Europe, but it didn't fully kick off, which was a real shame. But anyway, we did a lot of the really big media and press in England. And one of the things we did was this series that they had at Abbey Road on, I think, Channel 4, one of the big TV stations, where they had, an artist come into Abbey Road, and then they filmed it and recorded it, and then it was, on TV and whatever. And that was my first time. I've been to Abbey Road since then, but that was my first time at Abbey Road. That was again, one of those things where you're like, yep, Abbey Road, Beatles. I was like,
that's awesome.
But yeah, my most recent one, I'm blabbering on here, but
no, by all means.
But I just appreciate it. It's the kind of things that, I mean, I try to appreciate those moments now more than ever, because it's like, I feel like sometimes life as a musician is like 5% amazing freaking moments that you will cherish forever, and then like 95% grind.
Yeah.
It's like literally, or travel, 50% travel, which also can be grind. I like to grind while I travel, but like, the most recent good one moment that I had was in last year, in October. I did some shows on my own, in my own name, and playing solo. I also played with some other guitarists. Actually, I played with a guy called Mike Dawes.
Oh yeah, he's awesome, fingerstyle guy.
Yeah. He's like one of the top like fingerstyle dudes, and we've really hit it off. And we ended up collaborating on some songs that night, or a few nights actually. And we've also just recorded in this studio. We've just recorded a couple of songs together that will come out soon.
Oh, cool.
Came to LA as well. But anyways, this was in Colombia. At like this guitar festival in Colombia, and I had some great moments with him, but I also had some moments where I was on my own, just doing my music in front of it was like the two best nights were like, and there was an outdoors gig where I got this idea to make a loop out of the ending of one of my songs, and then just because I'd just seen all these fingerstyle guys interacting with the audience and being like, one of the other guys was Thomas Lieb. I don't know if you know that guy. He's one of the OG like fingerstyle dudes from all the way back to the 90s. But like he was pretty amazing at like dealing with the crowd and whatnot. So I was like, I gotta step up and do something here, like, because I was on like after these guys. So it's like an open air thing, like a lot of people, but the people are up for it, and it's just me and a guitar and a loop. So I was like, oh, what can I do? So I started doing this. I set up a loop at the end of my song. This song called "Science of Traffic," and then
I've just been listening to that. That's
right.
weird.
But I made a solo loop version of that song, and then I started to play phrases, and then I was like sing it, and then they would sing it, and so I got this call and response thing up with like this pretty big crowd on this outdoor gig, and then and it really worked, and people really sang it back to me, and I was like, that was one of the most powerful moments, also because it was a spur of the moment thing, so that was one of the most uplifting moments. But actually that was the start of it. Then we played some other gigs during that tour, and the last one was at this massive theater called El Teatro Adolfo or something in Cartagena in Colombia, and it was full, and it was like a proper, like, I don't know, 1,500 2,000, like a big theater full of people, and I had those people singing back my lines that night after having like kind of practiced it with other crowds. And that night it was like, that's one of the best nights in memory that I can think of, because not only was it I've played for many crowds that size, but it was me on stage doing my music and having them sing that back. And the singing bit is, I don't know, it's just another level of interaction when you get people to sing back at you. That really I haven't played a gig since then without making people do that because it works so well that I feel like that made it connect.
Yeah,
People want that, like they want to be included in the performance.
Absolutely.
Like
and the way that I make music and the way, or some of the music I make, I think is not that inclusive. Like, it can be very nerdy and very technical, and I want to reach people, but I'm also kind of a quirky guy, and so doing something like that, which is very inclusive, it really helped, and it really made a big difference in terms of like feeling like, holy shit, I really connected with that crowd, and they felt something when they were, and I felt something like very few moments I can think of that made me feel as amazing as having like a full theater play back my phrases that I was making up on the spot. That's living in my book, so I want to, I'm gonna chase moments like that from here on out.
Yeah. Hey, if you never did anything, quote unquote successful in the music world again, you've already you could relive those moments in your head for the rest of your life.
Yeah. But I've got that, going back to what Aaron was saying about like not resting on your laurels, but like, reaching a place where you can not grind. I don't know if I'll ever get to that, man. It'll always just spur me on. Like a moment like that will just spur me on to try and get
more
to something even better,
it's in your DNA, man, as a musician.
That's it, man. I think we all have it. It's like, or anybody that makes something happen and makes it work as a musician. It's in your DNA to just be like, hey, what's next? Let's do this.
As you get better at your instrument, you'd think you're like, as soon as you can do the thing that you like set out to do, like technically on the instrument or musically, it's like as soon as you get there, or by the time in the process of getting there, you've discovered all the other things that you want to, the next level, and you can't ever get there. It's a constant struggle of, I can do this amazingly fast pentatonic Eric Johnson thing, and now I see that like that's what I thought was cool a long time ago, and now that I can do that, it's this thing that's 2 steps away. It's just never ending.
Yeah. One thing that's scary about nowadays is I mean, I used to like, and I know it's super cocky, but I used to feel like, I've even said it on like mainstream media in Denmark, like that I felt like, you know, I could play anything that anybody's going to want me to play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty cocky to say that. But I was like, you know, I think I can work out most things and make it work. But like, I'm going to have to take that back now. Cause like looking at certain players now and like, what people are able to do. And like, it's, you know, it's a pretty interesting situation what the guitar world has gotten into now, because, you know, people have unprecedented like access to learning and like just really getting, and some people, you know, their parents will like, if not even just facilitate, they might even push people into really digging deep from an early age. And like, you know, so now you have like monstrous players that are like super young, and all these kind of, you know, there's all these like, especially like all the legato kind of guys, you know, like the people that have taken like the Holsworth stuff next level, like you know, you have Tom Quayle, or you have a really a new guy called, I don't know if you've come across Alex Sill. He was just out with some kind of pretty fusion legend dudes. But anyways, he literally just did that, and like he's just a young dude. He's here in LA, but like he's got that legato thing down where you're like, what the it's like, I can't do that. That's what? You know, it's like that you want to play, and I've wanted to play like a saxophone player for a long time, hence like doing a lot of sweeping, like Frank Gambale style. And like, you know, I love all that, like the idea of being able to fly like a saxophone player, you know, up and down, and just, you know, really fluid kind of stuff. There's guys that are doing that with legato now that I'm just like, what the just happened? Like just patterns upon patterns that they've worked in, you know, you know, it's got to be done slowly, I guess, and just like worked in these combinations like of patterns that just create this ridiculous flow. And I got to take my hat off and be like, okay, that's next level, you know. And that's definitely happening right now, that you start to see players that have taken certain aspects of guitar to like a level where you're like, what?
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
And inspiring. It's cool.
But you have to, you know, despite all the you know, showy things that people can do, I find myself, the more as I mature as a player, I find myself trying to play less fast. I listen to videos of myself and it's too busy, and I'm like, as to be a better player, I need to play less is more the problem that I'm dealing with currently, and trying to fix, like, play the right note at the right time, you know, maybe, you know, play fast when it's called for, but land it right. And
I hear you.
Most people just don't care that the majority of people listening, unless they're like guitar guys or girls, like they're not as impressed by the speed and, you know, technique. They're more impressed by something that hits them in the heart.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's the emotion, you know. And that's what I try and focus on, like, and I don't feel like I'm there, but like I'm becoming increasingly aware of and trying to focus more and more on the emotion, you know, that you're creating. And sometimes it's hard when you're a musician like we are, and you can disseminate everything, and you can, you know, you can really pull things apart, and you pull things apart as a default thing, you know. I'm like, I listen to something and I'm like, okay, it's 3/4 Dorian mode. He started that phrase on the 2, you know. Stupid stuff like that just immediately registers. And then once you start to make music, you know, you realize that stuff about your own music. And then not most people, but many people, including myself, can sometimes get caught up in focusing on those things, you know, like where it's like, oh, that bit was cool, or that bit, I didn't really hit that thing. as good as well as I want it to, or whatever. And then sometimes you lose sight of what's really, I mean, it depends what you're trying to do, but like if you're trying to communicate with like people, and maybe not just guitarists, then it's like, you know, you want to pay some attention, to what general emotion that's happening there. And I'm trying to focus more and more on that, because it's like it's really a large part of what music is to most people. Is what it makes somebody feel, and that's why uplifting music or funk music or dance music or whatever is so popular, because it's like people are like, yeah, I know how I feel when I listen to that. I feel great, so of course I'm gonna want to listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try and sometimes steer towards, or to at least make myself aware of what I'm trying to create in terms of emotion for other people. I think listeners are becoming very aware of that as well. The music scene is becoming very aware of, or the listeners are becoming aware of what they're using the music for. Like with Spotify, it's like there's the playlists are like chill, or reading, study music, or driving music. Things that music is kind of becoming a commodity, and a lot of people that are doing well as music makers are doing well because their music is it fits into a certain scenario. I know some people that within the fingerstyle community, because I've worked with this label that have a lot of the fingerstyle guys, and some of those people do really well on Spotify because they churn out these kind of acoustic chill things that just get playlisted on like major playlists for people that just want to have a chill vibe and so they just put on like this playlist with Spotify, or they get played in bars and Starbucks and restaurants all over the place, and they're starting, they make dosh out of that just because the music is being used at a for a certain vibe, and good on them. It's a good thing.
Well, awesome. Well, Aaron, do you have any other questions?
I have just one quick one. I definitely want to be respectful of your time.
That's cool.
I would like to know where the name Quist came from. That's part A. And then part B, what is the future for yourself?
Well, Quist is part of my last name. And also phonetically, Quist means twig in Danish and in Swedish, I guess. And I'm not a big man, so twig sort of made sense. So Quist it was, and I've been Quist since I was a teenager.
Awesome.
So that's that. I'm going to continue what I'm doing because some of it's kind of working pretty well. But my main focus is to create more music that I'm actually proud of. I feel like I've put out a lot of music that I'm not as proud of as I would like to be. So I'd like to make some music that I can feel truly has hit, all the factors came together at the right time. So I'm going to keep on chasing that, making some music that I'm actually proud of, and building my audience, the way that that people do. And my focus is to come out in my own name and do things like the one I just described in Colombia. I want to make that happen a lot more. And going back to what we were talking about, playing with other people, that feeling is something that I love as well. So I'm working on finding the best way to go out and play in my own name, both as a solo artist, but also, with a band. Probably as a solo artist, but with a band. I want to make that happen more, and that's certainly a focus because that's kind of the missing hustle in my current scenario. Like I've really focused a lot in the recent year. I've focused a lot on building my own thing in my own name, because I can actually, you know, I can actually live off it now. I don't have to do other things. But like I said at the very start of this interview as well, I've been a performer since I was 6, so I need to perform. And I love to perform with like big artists and stuff, and I will do that again and continue to do that. But you know, in an ideal world, I will get my own thing to the kind of level where I can go and tour properly in my own name, with and without band with me.
Quist and the Heartbreakers.
Yeah,
Back in band.
I just did a record here with somebody who's very influenced by Tom Petty. We did one of Petty's songs as well, and it's pretty great music. I actually saw him at the Hollywood Bowl like weeks before he died.
Wow.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I love Tom Petty's music.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, last night I had to look up "Damn the Torpedoes" because it was used in a sentence, and I didn't really know what it meant, so I had to look it up, and I realized, oh yeah, it's an album of his, but I didn't really realize what it meant.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he's amazing. But yeah, I hope that answered it. That's the plan, and awesome. I want to thank you guys for you know, the exposure on your channel and on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. We've really enjoyed having you.
Awesome.
If you could let everybody in our audience know where they could go to find out more about you.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, my website is a good starting place. It's Quist-O-Rama, like Futurama, but Quist-O-Rama. So QUISTORAMA.com, Quistorama.com. And I mean, my YouTube channel is the hub of creation, I guess. Like that's where a lot of the stuff comes out first, and that's Quist TV. The URL is Quist TV, so you can look up Quist or Quist Jam or whatever. And that's it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Those are good places to find my stuff.
It's been really fun. I've enjoyed getting to ask you lots of questions, and
it's been really great to chat with you guys. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll meet in real life as well.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you, man.
See you later. Bye.